This episode of Better Bad Ideas is brought to you by Labor First. Let's get into it.
I'm Sean O'Brien, General President of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters.
Put your helmets on, buckle your chin straps. It's a full contact sport.
We're going to find out who has a better bad idea. Welcome to Better Bad Ideas. We've got former U.S. Senator, hopeful U.S. Senator again, Scott Brown. Honor and privilege to be on Better Bad Ideas.
Same here.
Did you think it was a better bad idea coming on this show or what?
No, I was really looking forward to it. I enjoyed your when you and Mark Wayne Mullen, who's a supporter of mine, went at it. I enjoyed and I appreciated the fact that you showed up at the convention and pointed out that, respectfully, we can find areas of agreement and work on it, as I've done my whole life.
So your career has been, I'll tell you, it's been great to watch because, you started out from humble beginnings, born in a shipyard, basically, right? And then you end up mass legislator, National Guard, retire as a colonel, U.S. Senator. No one thought you could win that. 2010. And you resonated with the voters back in 2010. And I think a big part of that was your humble upbringing, your struggle, trials and tribulations. But the best thing I liked about that campaign, I think most people liked, was the fact that you were Scott, regular guy in a Carhartt jacket and a pickup truck. Yeah. What was that strategy all about?
Well, first of all, nothing's changed. I mean, I was born at the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, 9th generation from New Hampshire, 1717. I lived in Portsmouth the first couple of years of my life. Then my parents got divorced, moved to Wakefield. I had a great career, had a great life. I know you lived in Wakefield, so it's a wonderful community. I probably ran around Lake Quannapowitt like 5,000 times. But I'm back in New Hampshire where my family is, and Assessor, Selectman, State Rep, State Senator, U.S. Senator, Trump's ambassador to New Zealand, Cook, Niue, Samoa, and our interest in Antarctica. And back then, yes, I was running because I'm looking at the people that were actually running, and Martha was already picking out the drapes. It was a done deal. And I remember she wouldn't debate me, she wouldn't do anything, and I said, I'm going to win this thing because you had Obamacare, and quite frankly, you recall we had Romney Care,
right,
which had full
basically set the tone. For
it's completely different. Obamacare crushed it. You had the Cadillac plans all the way down to the Commonwealth Care. You could have all different types of programs, and Obamacare now it's like this one size fits all, high deductibles. It's not affordable.
But back then, though, Romney had probably the best health care.
Yeah, it was the best one in the country.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, it passed like 198 to 2 or some ridiculous amount. So I was saying, and I said, I can do better than these people. And I went out and I met people every day, as I'm doing right now. I would go to, if it was 4 or 5 hours to go and see 10 or 20 people, I'd do it. Go to Pittsfield, Dalton. And I told them what I was doing and what I would do for them, and I would always be available. And I'll never forget, I'm in the debate, the one debate that Martha gave me at UMass.
I think I was there.
Greeting all of the union people and saying, we're here, we got signs, but we're voting for you. We're voting for you. Because they recognize, I'm not a silver spoon guy. I'm like you. Parents married and divorced 4 times each. Lived in 17 houses by the time I'm 18. I'm a sexual assault survivor, domestic abuse survivor, arrested at 12. I'm busting my hump to try to be the best and provide the best for my family and my friends. But anyway, that was great. And I remember her picking out the drapes, and I was in the backstage with David Gergen. And I said, David, I just want to say, Scott Brown, it's such an honor to meet you. I was a big fan. He goes, yep. I go, okay, well, I just want to say thank you. Appreciate you being here. Okay. And he walked away. Martha comes in. Martha, how are you? You're dressed. It's amazing. You look great. How's your dog? How's your husband? And I said, here we go. It's going to be like that.
It's going to be fixed.
So the hair's stuck up, and okay, danger, Will Robinson. I got to be ready. And I remember saying, well, Senator Brown, imagine you're a U.S. Senator and the Kennedy healthcare bill, the Obamacare, whatever, is going to come, and you are the deciding vote to kill it. The Kennedy this, the Kennedy that, the Kennedy this, Kennedy. I said, sir, no disrespect. It's not the Kennedy seat. It's not the Democrat seat. It's the people's seat. And that was when it was over. And it was an honor to serve the people of Massachusetts, an absolute honor. And to try to fill the late Senator Kennedy's shoes with constituent care and other things, it was wonderful. It was exhilarating.
Those guys, those old school guys are, they're few and far between now. I mean, you look back and, I met you a long time ago when you were running for your first time as U.S. Senator. And I remember I met you after we were in Menino's Hyde Park used to do a neighborhood block party.
Yeah, yeah.
I love Tom Menino. I think he was the best politician ever in the city of Boston because he used to say to everybody, and I think this is what resonated with your campaign originally was, Tom Menino would go to everything in the city.
Yeah.
Everything. But where he focused on, he didn't care about the being in front of 400 or 500 people. He wanted to go to a place where there's 10 or 11 where he intimately could have these conversations where that's more important sometimes than going to these big high ticket events. And it seemed like, you know, you may not have adopted that from his playbook, but you kind of ran same campaigns where you're out there grassroots, you're in your pickup truck, you're out with a Carhartt jacket. People want to see that.
Yeah, it's just the same way. I haven't changed. I mean, I have it. It's my third GMC Canyon, going around everywhere in New Hampshire.
How many payments you got left on that?
I paid cash.
All right, good.
Because I got a trade-in for a great price, and it was like $14,000 to get that. And there's a car out there. It's like lime green out with a parking. That's my truck. Some guy special ordered it, and he didn't want it, so I got a great deal.
Lime green. How do you like that color?
Well, it's that color. You'll see it outside when you go park.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
I can't wait. But getting back to the campaign, so you know you've been in the spotlight ever since you came to prominence in political arena. Your family is well known. Your wife was one of the most respected newscasters, Channel 5. We used to watch her all the time. I think she was an anchor for a long time. And your daughters, obviously everybody knows their trajectories and where they ended up. How was that? Like, I mean, that was when you were the U.S. Senator, you know, you had American Idol going on, your wife's in the spotlight as well. I mean, who was neglected in that family, I guess?
I was. Okay.
The U.S. Senator
They were
didn't
up here, and I was down here.
The U.S. Senator didn't rate,
Yeah,
huh?
Ariana, my other daughter, who's a veterinarian on the veterinarian board in New Hampshire, and yeah, we're kind of down here. But yeah, listen, we're blessed. I have 2 wonderful kids, 4 grandchildren. And Gail was a shop steward at Channel 5, a union member still. She's going to get a pension. I've been a union member in 1982. I had to stop because I obviously became a senator and an ambassador. So, yeah, we work hard and take nothing for granted and go and meet people and treat them with respect.
So, but at your age now, you're coaching high school basketball. You're doing what you love to do.
Yeah.
You work out. You're in phenomenal shape. You're 66 years old, right? 65, right?
Thanks for reminding me.
Great. I'll remind you all the time because I don't like being reminded either. But, I mean, you are at a point in life where most people your age would say, hey, I've risen to the top. I've come from humble beginnings, worked my way up, earned everything I've gotten, which is the truth. And, you know, when you get to 65, 66, like maybe it's time to step back. And most people would say, hey, you know what? I've accomplished a ton. I'm probably going to have grandkids coming, or I have grandkids. Like maybe it's, you know, time to scale back. But you are completely doing the opposite. You are ramping up. You're in the fight of your life. You are taking this thing on like you're going to lose, right? And you're fighting out there grinding every day. What is making you tick, and why do you want to do this?
You just watch Washington. You've been there. You see it. The gridlock is unbelievable. They don't talk. They don't work together. Mm-hmm. That changed a lot. And remember, when I was there, I'm the guy that stopped the Democrat supermajority. So every bill came through me in my office for almost 2 years. And to find ways to find solutions, the fact that they're holding you and the citizens of New Hampshire and this country hostage every time and shutting down the government, affecting union and non-union workers, and saying that we're leverage, I find offensive.
Well, the problem is, and I think you'll agree with this. I mean, you were labeled as one of the most bipartisan senators when you served, right? Which is great. And what my trajectory through my career is, obviously I was a president of Local 25, one of the most influential unions. Yeah, ran New England, and then became the youngest international vice president, and then became general president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. But the one thing that taught me working in Massachusetts, especially with people like you when you're in the legislature in Massachusetts, was we never looked at issues that were a Democrat versus Republican versus independent. We looked at the issues as, all right, how is this going to help, number one, our members, your constituents, and I got that kind of education and formal training on how it was to work across the aisle, even though, and I always looked at your party affiliation. Growing up, I went to high school in Medford. Growing up there, blue collar city, you always looked at political affiliation, usually just by zip code, the way you were brought up, and it wasn't about one party was good, one party was bad. So when we went to Washington, D.C. In 2022, I was looking back at like, the Obama years. Labor's biggest issue back then was the Employee Free Choice Act, which I'm sure you remember was basically the PRO Act, a little watered down. And we had a Democratic House, Democratic Senate, Democratic President. And that was Labor's biggest issue. And it got kind of pushed to the side, never talked about, did nothing. Fast forward, you get the PRO Act, which was never going to pass because it was an issue. It was a legislation that was, going to be weaponized by the Democrats against the Republicans. And we recognized it because, we're one of the biggest, most powerful unions, and we know what it takes to organize members. And we're like, there's no way this is going to be embraced. Even before the election, this is going to be embraced by the Republican Party because we need bipartisan support on this. We start working with Josh Hawley. Yeah. Right. Josh Hawley was not at the time, like, we didn't know who he was. I started setting up meetings with these Republicans when I first took over and said, look, I'm going to take the playbook that we utilized in Massachusetts and try and incorporate it on a bigger scale. I'm junior varsity coming from Mass. Now we're in varsity. Let's see if this works. And having conversations with people and agreeing to disagree on stuff that you can never agree on, but finding common ground on stuff, that's what we started doing. And it's really not that hard, but right now it's impossible. It's frightening because when you can shut the government down, like happened in November. And
it's happened now, right now.
Yeah, right now with Homeland Security. Yeah. How do you fuck around with Homeland Security? And it's like, all right, we need people in there that are going to find solutions to the problem, not weaponize an issue for their political, comfort zone or their political future.
And, the way that you do that is you read the bills. You see how they affect your state, your country, your debt and deficit, and vote regardless of who's supporting it. That's what I did. I've never been in the majority. I mean, remember here, I was in the state Senate. We had 6 out of 40, 22 out of 160. And yet I had a very successful career getting things done. Mm-hmm. Same thing. And my first bill was the insider trading bill. I did it, within 6 months. Went right up to the president and said, sir, we need to get this done. It's ready to pop. And he did it.
Right. There was no insider trading going on.
Oh, yeah. And when I left, they weakened it. Now they're all of a sudden going to do it again. Yeah, they've already made their hundreds of millions of dollars. Let's cut the crap.
Well, there's some that were in the paper from this state this week about their rise.
Of course. Yeah, it's mind-boggling, quite honestly.
Hey, look, I'm all about people making money.
Yeah, but you know how they do it. They're in committees and they get special information. They go trade on it. It's wrong.
But think about representatives in Massachusetts right now. We've got some good ones. We've got some ones that, forget who they represent, forget, that their constituents who are the ones that allow them the privilege to serve, whether it's in the House or in the Senate. And that's where I had the struggle early on with the Democratic Party. And I'm a Democrat. I grew up as a Democrat by zip code, by my parents. My mother is a card-carrying, she was a card-carrying Kennedy Democrat. Yeah. They did no wrong in her eyes. Now, she watches Fox News, right? Because the party has changed so much where it forgot who they actually are elected to serve.
See, I believe that the Republican Party is now the party of the working people, and the Democratic Party is the party of the elites, the billionaires and trillionaires and the others who are basically trying to control our government. You just see it now. Your unions, they supported Trump 60%.
They did, but I'll say this. And you say they're the working party of the people, the party of the working people. They could be. Right. So, we've gotten tremendous support on legislation called the Faster Labor Contracts Act with Josh Hawley leading it from the from the Republicans and Cory Booker from the Democrats. But I said this to Representative Emma recently. So after the election, we were the only union that didn't endorse, which was huge for the Republicans. Right. So Emma calls me into a meeting with all these Republicans, Congressman Stauber's there, the whole group. And they're like, this is great. Emma goes, I want to be the, we can prove that we're going to be the working people's party. I'm like, great. You just have to prove it. You have to do some things. Right. And nothing's really been done outside of, J.D. Vance has done some great stuff for our members in the rail division. This attack on people are saying this attack on the federal workers, that's their fight. They're in court over that stuff. But there's issues where the Republicans right now could take the ball and really run with it. And I'm encouraging that every single day because clearly the Democrats lost the support of the rank and file. Not necessarily the leadership, but the rank and file of all our unions. And if I'm a Republican like yourself, and you've proven over time and time again who you support, working people, like I would be out there saying, all right, what are your issues? We can't do this, but how about let's figure out a path that it works for both sides.
I agree. So I am.
And I'm encouraging them every single day.
You
Like
should.
I had a
That's great.
conversation yesterday about a discharge petition that we're trying to get on the floor. And it'll remain nameless. And he's a Republican. And I'm like, you were out there leading the charge. And why can't you sign on to this discharge position? Because I got a chairmanship that might be in jeopardy. I said, listen,
Exactly.
no one put their fucking neck out on the line more than I did. And I did it because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. So you nailed it. So here's the issue. If you don't vote along, whether the Democrats and not so much the Republicans, I didn't have that issue, but with Chuck Schumer, if you don't vote along the party lines, they take away a staffer, a funding, a Codell, a chairmanship, and they use that as leverage. Me, I don't give a shit. I'm going to be there. I'm going to do what I feel is appropriate. But it's also interesting that you said, I looked at, for example, at the big, beautiful bill that was signed.
Right.
I looked at that as a pro-America, pro-jobs bill because you have no income, no tax on tips, overtime, seniors are getting a break on Social Security. But in New Hampshire, $500 million over 5 years for our rural health centers, $200 million for the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, accelerated appreciation for businesses who want to grow and expand, that supercharge that we need. And keeping the taxes as they were, not the largest tax increase in. Every Democrat voted against it. That's not pro-jobs. That's whether you're union or non-union.
Right.
And yet they're touting it's bad, it's this, it's that. No, it's not. You're seeing now the beginnings of the economic recovery that, quite frankly, paying what I paid $2.28 the other day with my BJ's card for gas. Eggs are $1.19 at Market Basket. Do we need to do more? Yes. When you say, why am I running? Why? What's driving me? It's the fact that we have people down there that don't do their jobs. They're beholden to the special interests, to their party leadership, and they forget, as you pointed out rightly and aptly, that they are not representing the people. And I look at the people that are in charge in New Hampshire right now. We have Kelly Ayotte, former governor, Republican, supermajority in the Senate, a large majority in the House, supermajority in the Executive Council. We get 4 Democrats who are anti everything that President Trump does. It doesn't matter whether it's supporting our law enforcement. They don't support qualified immunity. Whether it's not even giving the president an attaboy on Iran or Maduro or any of the good things that he's doing. And that's just wrong.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, I said it all the time, and Trump could cure cancer, and they're gonna find fault with it, right?
This episode is brought to you by Labor First, the leader in healthcare navigation and advocacy for plan sponsors, union members, and retirees. Navigating healthcare isn't easy, especially when it comes to Medicare, and it shouldn't fall on our retirees' shoulders alone. That's where Labor First comes in. They work one-on-one with members to help them understand their benefits, resolve issues, and get the care they've earned. From answering tough questions to fixing billing problems, Labor First is in your corner every step of the way. No call centers, no runaround, just healthcare advocates who care. Labor First was founded by a proud Teamster son and grandson. For over 60 years, his father and grandfather led Teamsters Local 837, now Local 107 in Philadelphia with pride, purpose, and grit. That same union spirit runs through everything Labor First does today. Now, hundreds of union health plans trust Labor First as a true partner, delivering results, supporting members and retirees, and never forgetting who they're actually working for. When it comes to protecting what your members have earned, Labor First stands with you. Visit laborfirst.com to learn more. This episode is brought to you by Catchers Law Group, proud advocates for injured workers and their families since 1986. If you've been hurt on the job, navigating the workers' comp system can feel like fighting an uphill battle. That's where Catchers Law comes in. They've recovered over $3 billion for hardworking people just like you, and they don't back down when your rights are on the line. They know what it means to stand shoulder to shoulder with unions and workers across the country. Because at Catchers Law, it's not just about compensation, it's about justice. To learn more, please visit catcheslaw.com. That's KECHES law.com. And I've got to tell you, I've had the opportunity to work side by side with Catchers Law Group. I've watched how fiercely and tirelessly they work on behalf of injured workers and their families. They get the justice that our members and workers deserve nationwide, and they fight and fight and fight. To learn more, please visit catcheslaw.com. That's KECHES law.com.
But let's get back to defund the police. You were arrested at 12 years old, right?
Yeah.
You didn't like cops back then.
I
was chased my whole life by them, even in my adult life by the feds, right? For stuff I didn't even do because they can make anything they want up. But here's the reality of it. Like, you need structure. You need, and when someone's saying, let's defund the police, like, I get there's bad cops out there. There's bad everybody out there. But if you defund the police, like, who's going to keep law and order in a city or town? And instead of saying, all right, there's a problem. Maybe there's a problem with the police. Maybe there's a problem with the training. Maybe there's a problem with community policing. Let's figure a way to solve this problem without compromising the public safety and putting everybody at risk. And like, that's an issue that I'm like, I don't know, if you went out and polled everybody in the community, would they want capable, qualified people on the streets at the night that, the times they're sleeping? Like, you don't want people running wild.
No. Well, first of all, I have a lot of respect for police. My nephew's a Burlington, Mass police officer. I have other relatives in DEA, FBI. I did 39 years in the military, joined after the blizzard of 78 as an enlisted man, retired as a colonel. We got it all covered.
Sure.
That being said, but not for a police sergeant in Wakefield seeing me be a jerk, literally grabbing me physically and saying, if you ever do this, because we worked at Friendly's, he'd worked, part-time at Friendly's. If he brought me in the cooler, he put me on like, it was like a semi-hook. If I ever see you being a wise ass, if I ever see you doing this, that, or any other thing, I am going to make sure I kick your ass. And it was like, wow, he actually cares. Because
right.
My parents were married and divorced 4 times each. I had drunken stepfathers, a tremendous amount of violence. I had zero structure. If it wasn't for a teacher and a judge in Salem District Court giving me another chance, and this police officer and a good coach, I'd be in jail or dead. There's no doubt in my mind. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for what our law enforcement people do. But Chris Pappas doesn't. Our delegation doesn't support them. They give lip service here and there. Oh, we're going to take money out of ICE and put it to our local people. That's never going to happen. Filing a bill just because he wants to like do the dog and pony show. In this race in particular, there's nobody in this race who has any military experience. Mm-hmm. I did 39 years. So there's nobody who has.
Now, what did you do in the military? You were judge advocate?
I was an infantry officer first, and then they did away with the 26th Yankee Infantry Division, airborne, then quartermaster because they did away with the division, and then I'm actually like, in bivouacking and jumping out of planes. I said, I'm a lawyer. What am I doing? And I had kids and married. So I went to JAG Corps, and then ultimately the last 4 years I was representing.
Well, most normal people don't have the urge to jump out of a perfectly
good airplane. It's exhilarating. It's exhilarating. Sure. It was so fun.
So funny, Orange Mass, right? Where they do
of course.
That,
that's where they do the parachuting.
So I went up with a buddy of mine when I was younger. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. Like, I want to do it. So go through the class, you're strapped in, you're going to do a tandem.
Yeah.
We sit in this, it looked like a Volkswagen with wings, right? Sitting there. Skies turn black and starts thundering. I'm like, I'm out. Not meant to be. Never again. That was a sign, so I never did it.
That's good. Listen, I enjoyed it. But it was an honor to serve. And there's nobody in this race that has any ambassadorial, federal, international.
How important is military experience to serve now?
I think it's incredibly important with all the things that are happening around the world with our military. I served on armed services and homeland, veterans, and small business. Mm-hmm. We still have 21 people killing themselves. A lot of them have never seen active duty. I want to get back to help solve that. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure that our veterans have a lot of care and coverages in New Hampshire. They shouldn't have to go to Boston or Vermont. And, dealing with strategy, funding our men and women who are serving, making sure there's no overlap. We can streamline, consolidate. Yeah,
it's pretty embarrassing though. Like when the country's shut down, and the people that fight for our freedom every single day, who probably sacrifice the most financially,
they're on food stamps and borrow money. Yeah,
I mean it's
happening right. It's Coast Guard right now.
Yeah, it's
Coast
embarrassing.
Guard. My nephew's in the Coast Guard. He's a XO locally, and he's been in for for 12, 15 years. They're not going to get paid. Our TSA. Safety and security, WIC and SNAP programs.
So who's responsible? I mean, there's both sides that have to take some ownership on this one. And, the last time around, we took a position, and we were very vocal, one of the few labor organizations that basically came out and said, cut the shit. Sign a clean CR and let's get people back to work.
I said that same thing.
And let's not put people in the middle. I mean, you have air traffic.
Leverage.
You have air traffic controllers. You know, we had catastrophes in the airline a year ago, right? When the military helicopter crashed. Like, those are the people you don't want to fuck with. Or, you know, TSA people who, you know, they got to deal with every ounce of people's bullshit. You know, they go to a job that's tough. I don't care whether people say they stand around, but then you're going to tell these people you're not getting paid for a month? Like, come on. And we're supposed to be the best country in the world. Who's at fault for this?
So I think, and I said the same exact thing, cut the crap. And if you see, like in New Hampshire, Gene Sheen, well, I came together. Well, after 43 days, you got the same exact thing you could have gotten on day one. Do a CR and hammer it out in committees. And they didn't. I've said publicly, I've texted Thune, and I said, keep them in overnight, 24/7. Don't let them go on holiday, Valentine's Day, fundraisers. Keep them there 24/7 till they do their damn jobs.
But isn't that how it's supposed to work?
It's supposed to work, but it doesn't.
I tell you, Fetterman, I had Fetterman on the podcast.
He should be the leader of the Democratic Party.
I had Fetterman on the podcast, and he was rock solid from day one. And I got to tell you, that guy, you know, he's a pretty impressive guy, you know, and I think he doesn't get enough credit because
gets it
the
from
way
me.
he dresses or the way he looks, but he calls balls and strikes.
Balls and strikes.
But there are some people on the Republican side that are never going to compromise. You know, they're dug in, just like there's some people on the far left that are never going to compromise. But I think that's the minority of both groups. Like, there's a way to get shit done. And right now, we shouldn't be in this position.
No, we're the United States of America, and we shouldn't be then. But once again, you put the petty personal partisan interest ahead of the people's interests. There's no reason to do a government shutdown. And they knew for 3 years that the healthcare extenders, you know, under Obamacare were going to expire. 3 years.
Well, they knew because
and what did they do?
It was extended for COVID.
What did they do? They did nothing.
Well, they weaponize issues. You know?
But they should have worked on it for 3 years, but they did nothing. And this is the problem with our government. They wait till the very last second, and because we don't have a supermajority, like you pointed out, when I stopped that, or the ability, they just shut it down and use us as leverage.
So right now we've got 3 major projects that are in the pipeline, but 2 that are important. It's the Gateway project, which is a tunnel connecting New Jersey and New York. This is fascinating, right? $11 billion project. And I'm thinking, this is Big Dig all over again, right? And
I was there. I voted on that.
And then there's the Penn Station project. So, you know, now everybody's laid off because funding stopped because there's a pissing contest going on. And, you know, I've talked to the president. He's like, hey, I want the project. But, you know, Schumer's being difficult on this side.
It's Schumer.
So I call Schumer. And Schumer and I didn't have a good relationship because I've called him out a bunch of different times and everything else. And I'm intimately involved with this whole project of trying to broker the funding for it. And, you know, what Schumer says on one side, and I go back to the president, and I'm like, hey, this is what's being said. And conversely, I'll go back, and they're like, you know, and it's like, come on, tell the truth. We got people, thousands of people ready to lose their job in the middle of winter. Like, let's cut the shit. Like, who cares what Penn Station's name? Name it Trump Station. I don't care, right? Next guy's going to come in and probably change it anyways, but just let's keep people working. And I tell you, Secretary Duffy and I have been working relentlessly to try and get this thing done. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, all the pissing and moaning, all the leverage you think you got. Now they're holding it up because of the ICE issues, the 10 demands that they have. And look, maybe some of those demands are relevant.
But Homan's already done some of those things. He's already addressed those things.
Right, exactly. But I mean, listen, we think, I mean, that guy getting shot, that was crazy.
It's terrible.
Absolutely crazy, right? So, all right, listen, you got it. Need some reform there. But why are we leveraging that for things that
because they're funded for a couple of years, right. and you just said it. I talked to the president. How about them getting in a room and banging it up?
Well, he did. Like to his credit, and I call balls and strikes. You know, the president said he needs to call me, so I call Schumer up. I go, you need to call him. He's like, well, I don't want to call him right now. You know, and it was going back. I go, Chuck, all due respect. I said, I don't want to be talking to you or anybody else about this thing, but you know, we need to keep people working. So then they file lawsuits, and it's like, come on now, like just get in a room and get this fucking shit over
That's the
with.
solution. And
know?
it's like you did with Mark Wayne Mullen.
Yeah.
Battling and then getting together. Listen, I've had many run-ins with Chuck Schumer. I'm not a big fan, respectfully. And I know the president. I respect him. I know what he's doing. I appreciate what he's doing. But I'm going to call balls and strikes with him as well.
So you were the first one to endorse him
Yeah.
in 2016. And there was a quote that says, hey, look, I will support the president of the United States, but I will also tell him when I don't agree with him. What haven't you agreed with the president on?
Well, I thought when he did Venezuela, he got Maduro. I agreed with that, but I don't want him running Venezuela. I want him running our country and working on our economy. I didn't think he should have kept Fauci at all. I look at what's happening now. He's doing an amazing job on foreign policy, but we're hurting here right now. The people you're talking about, we need to get our economy moving immediately. And it's not only hurting our men and women who are, whether they're union or non-union, but our energy costs as well. Yeah, we're seeing it, but we're not seeing it in individual states. So there's a lot of things that, I agree with them on. And when I see something specifically, I'm going to point it out.
Right. And I think a lot of it is how you actually bring it to his attention. Like
I've always told
doing
him,
press releases and smashing them people on TikTok. That's really not, that doesn't help. It's like, hey, listen, you fucked up over here. Like I talked to him, I said, what do you care what the project's named? It's going to keep people working, people that voted for you. And he called me back like the next morning. He's like, well, what do you think about this? And I'm like, you're the boss. Like you tell him what you want. I said, but at the end of the day, I said, just remember one thing. 65% of the union members working on those projects voted for you. And conversely, I said to Schumer, what do you care what the name of it is? As long as people are working. This is where it gets crazy.
Listen, Sean, that's government, man. That's why I want to go and get back and try to figure it out and work on it. Yeah, I could be relaxed. I could be down with my wife in Fort Myers. I could be, doing my rock band all over the country. But there's a need there, and the people who are there right now are knuckleheads, and they're not looking out for the people.
Now, Congressman Pappas, he's got some union support.
Always check his record.
Well, I was just going to ask you about, is it accurate, his support of unions? Has he always, we check his record, obviously. What is your position on his opinion of himself that he's a pro-union candidate?
Well, my experience with unions, as I said, I was in the union since 1982, and I never got any union support ever until I ran for the U.S. Senate. The first union endorsement I got was the Worcester Police. And then I got some local fire. That's it. I've never received any money. I've never received any help. But I'm the guy who actually have supported, unions, picket lines, strikes, et cetera. And then you have guys.
You've actually walked picket lines,
Yeah,
right?
I did. Back with, it was, and people say, well, it was for after and screen. That's just Screen Actors Guild. That's after. I'm sorry, there's still people who are contributing dues, which I did for decades. Chris Pappas has never done that. Yeah, of course he's a Democrat. They're going to rubber stamp it. But like you said, how about like looking at people and their accessibility? What has he done for the unions? Like, what has he actually sponsored and passed that helps unions?
Well, I think he signed on to the FAFSA labor contracts,
signed on,
which Stauber out of Minnesota and he's a Republican. That
of course he's going to sign on, though. It's
easy.
It's a no-brainer.
It's easy.
But what has he actually done? For example, in the insider trading bill, when on the thing that he voted against the big beautiful bill for, he said it's because of SNAP and it's because of Social Security, and Medicare. And I'm like, okay, did you go to the Speaker of the House? No. Did you go to the Chairman? No. Did you go to the President? No.
But do you think?
But I did.
Do you think they're just being told how to vote?
Yes, of course. Listen, I remember, I'll never forget, I was a U.S. Senator, and we were doing something. It was a no-brainer. And it was just an amendment to a simple thing. And it was a great amendment. And Al Franken voted for it. And then Harry Reid comes around, Al, come here. And then he changed his vote. And I said, you're such a pussy. Like what are you doing? Well, they'll take away a chairmanship. They'll take away my office.
But who cares?
They do.
Because, but here's the thing. Think about this. And when I was on the phone yesterday with this person, I was like fucking wanted to come unglued. But I'm trying to get mature as I get older. And I want to go, you a fucking pussy? Like, seriously, what? You don't get a chairmanship? Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Right? You work for the people that elect you back home. What do you care? The retaliation, that'd be a great platform for you. oh, you know, I can really help you. I'm like, how are you going to help me? You can help, you know, millions of working people by getting out in front of this thing. Yeah, I know, but I'm with you. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, well, the chairmanship, you have more staff, you get more power, you control all the debate. So yeah, it's important, but you need to.
But it's important in D.C. Is it important when you go home to New Hampshire or when you go home to Massachusetts?
No.
I mean, I'd rather like take a stand, have some integrity, and fight for what the people didn't elect you to go be a chairman. The people elect you to represent your state, right? Yeah. So they don't care whether you're the chairman of Ways and Means. They don't care if you're the chairman of Transportation. They want to know, what are you doing for my state? I elect
listen,
you.
That's where you and I agree. Let me just make this really crystal clear so it's on public record. My office will always be open to you. Mm-hmm. Not only that, happy to go drink a beer or two with you. Several or tequila. But we always an open door. That's what happened with the Zagruda bill, right? They came in and they were like, we need your help. We need your help. Like, yeah, how much do you need? Well, we need, X billions of dollars. That's never going to happen because you have insurance, you have lawsuits, you have medical insurance that's going to pay for that. So what's the real number? They go X. I go, okay, I can do that. And I got it done. I got it done.
Now, as a U.S. Senator, when you're elected, will you support the Faster Labor Contracts Act?
I actually know why you're doing it,
right?
Because there's the delay. I'm going to work with Josh and learn more about that particular issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's important to us. That's important
it's
to labor.
Important.
And by the way, we've been working with so many different people from so many different walks of life and different backgrounds that we would never get the cooperation and every consideration is being taken. Like, what happens to small businesses? What happens to, and we're actually engaging stakeholders in it to say, look, how does this hurt you? How does this help you? Like right now, big tech is going to put on a huge fight, but big tech isn't going to be affected by this at all.
Right. So here are the three things: the faster labor contracts, the warehouse workers protection, and those are the things that I was doing research on,
right?
Because coming in here, and it's not something that people in New Hampshire are talking about right now.
But we fight all the time in New Hampshire, and it's crazy. There's always this introduction by a Republican governor about right to work.
No, it's off the table.
Yeah,
it's off the table.
Right, you would never support national right to work.
No,
Rand Paul always takes a run at it. But the thing that I'm proud of, we have.
But they actually, excuse me for interrupting. They actually, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday or the day before, they had a vote to take it off the table.
Right,
because people keep trying to, and it's divisive.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, it's proven that if you're right to work, less wages, education systems, not anywhere near where it needs to be. But it's funny, like Josh Hawley, for instance. We first started talking to him. I'm like, we can't ever, support someone that's going to support a national right work to platform. He's like, yeah, well, I don't really know much about it, but I'm for right to work. And when we actually sat down and explained and had a conversation and actually showed him the comparison of states that are right to work versus non-right to work, not just from a labor perspective, but from a community's perspective, from an education perspective and everything else, he's like, I'm not supporting this anymore. This is not good for my constituents. Yeah. And all it was having a conversation.
Well, it's interesting you say that. So I plan on hiring somebody from the union, a labor person.
I know where you're going with this. I'm not interested.
Right. Well, okay. you make way too much money.
I just can't take another pay cut.
Yes, I was going to say, but I know some people in this room who could probably be very good. Okay, you have a house in D.C. already.
We are trying to get her a job.
And I, for example, in the fishing industry, I believe it or not, Barney Frank and I were like this when it comes to protecting our fishermen. And there's no advocates here right now in New England except Susan Collins.
What a great industry, huh?
That's amazing people.
It's like Major League Baseball.
Amazing people. And then, on the two-way issues, I don't know everything about everything, but I hire good people around me.
Right.
So I'm telling you right now, I will hire, per your recommendation or others, somebody who is very well informed on these union issues. So I can go to him or her and say, hey, tell me about this. And I think the conversation part of what you just said is important because a lot of time there's misperception about what is actually fact or fiction. That's why I read the bills. I'm a lawyer. Yeah. I read the bills.
But that's a problem. Most people don't read the bills.
No, that's their fault.
They'll depend on a staffer and say, this is not good because of X, Y, and Z, instead of finding out exactly what it is. I mean, look, we represent 1.3 million members. We represent a diverse membership everywhere, A to Z, airline pilots to zookeepers. And I need to know everything I possibly can on what's going on. I don't want to be briefed. I want to be like able to articulate and debate and solve a problem if need be. And it's funny how people just put that in someone else's hands.
I'm just going to share, I don't want to go in the Wayback Machine, but Finneran, Patriot Stadium bill. Yeah. I represented parts of Walpole and obviously that whole area. And I remember remember those late night sessions for 3 days in a row? Yep. You know, you had Walter or somebody shaving people's legs. They would,
Timothy?
Yeah. Back in the day, right? So I remember I'm at my desk. I'm a state rep, and he puts this bill on my desk. It's like that big. I said, sir, what's this? He goes, that's the Patriot Stadium bill. We're doing it in 3 hours.
Yeah, 9,000 pages.
Yeah. And I said, I'm a lawyer. So I went to the index, blah, 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 and I'm looking at it. It says infrastructure. Oh, infrastructure. Walpole. Huh. Putting pipes, sewer, everything through the town of Walpole with no mitigation monies. Okay? This is Walpole, one of my biggest towns. And I said, sir, you can't do this. There's no mitigation. We can't do this. This is wrong. And he says, you know what? You're right. I knew that. I wanted to see if you could find it. And then it didn't happen. And then Bob Kraft had to put his own sewer facility up on the property.
As he should have.
Yeah. So those are the things that you do when you read the bills.
So think about this. Think about how many people don't do that. Not only on a state level, but on a federal level. And then after the fact, what do you say to your constituency? Like, oh, my bad. I didn't do my job.
I read everything.
My members don't do their job. They get fired.
Yeah,
right.
I'm a sponge. You got to read stuff, folks.
So what has been the positive part of the campaign so far, and what has been the negative part?
The positive part has been the people. You know, going out and visiting businesses and individuals about learning about their lives, their history, their dreams, what their issues are. In New Hampshire, it's housing, it's energy, it's the high cost of goods, it's the border, it's sanctuary cities, public safety, making sure that we get our fair share from the federal government, no more federal mandates and then having us pay for it and not them, and making sure that we can streamline the housing process to make sure that people can actually buy houses, transportation infrastructure, those are all important. Those are the things that I've enjoyed learning and listening to. I enjoy getting up in the morning, making 3 hours of phone calls, asking people for money. I love your support as well. And then going and visiting businesses. I've already been up since 6 o'clock working, did a TV interview. I'm here. I got other 3 or 4 things tonight, and then I'm done around midnight. So that's been amazing.
And you got a hall pass this weekend, right?
Yeah, I do. I have a hall pass probably for a week. Thank you. No, she was actually with Natalie Jacobson, Dixie Watley.
Oh my God, that was
Dixie Watley and Gail, and then Judy Guile, who was the camera person. They had dinner at Natalie's house last night for 4 hours.
What a crew that was back in the day, because
Chet and Natalie,
5 to 6, Chet, Nat, and Dickie. Don't forget about Dick Albert.
Dick Albert.
And then Mike Lynch on sports.
I saw Lynchy actually at the Kowloon 75th where my band played.
Right.
And he was there.
Bobby Wong's the best, isn't he?
Yeah, the whole family.
So here's the best Bobby Wong story. So Bobby Wong's a great friend.
Ditto.
I stopped going in the restaurant because I'd go in there, and you go in there with a bunch of my buddies. And he doesn't charge you. And he's trying not to charge you. I'm like, but I don't come in there for this, right?
Same.
So we used to do Mike Boyle's gym together in the morning. So we're in the same class, adult training. So I'm walking out, and I'm like, this guy, he's like, why are you not coming to my restaurant anymore? I'm like, because you don't charge me. I don't operate that way. And I would, take care of the bartenders and the servers. Unbelievable, right? So I go to the lady, I go, when's his membership up at Boyle's? She's like a month or so. I'm like, how much is it for the year? She tells me, I fucking bang, here you go. So comes into class like 2 days later, I don't see him. He's like, oh, you got me. I see how you operate. It's just such a good guy.
Wonderful family, dear friends.
So tell us about the band. Well, wait, we're jumping ahead here. I want to hear the negative part of the campaign.
The negative part is really the divisiveness. And if you go up to a Democrat and say, I'm Scott Brown, running for the United States Senate, they say, you're a Democrat or Republican. I say, I'm a Republican. They go, F you suck, Trump sucks, everything sucks. Very little conversation.
So you're getting painted with the anti-Trump brush.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, your opponents are, and they're their teams are that's their platform.
Well, Sununu got Trump's endorsement.
Right.
You know, so that helps me quite honestly, because
right.
now the independents are saying, what did he do to sell his soul? Because when President Trump says jump, it's like,
Now that's ironic, right?
High, sir. Yeah.
Does that rub you the wrong way though?
No,
think about
listen,
think about you were the first one to jump on
Yeah,
2016, right?
Yeah.
This is where politics is fucking crazy.
Yeah, hey, listen,
right?
you know him. He's going to do whatever he wants to do, and he's
Right.
going to get, you know, guidance.
And ironically, I ran into Sununu's brother at the White House Christmas party.
Yeah, he's making only about $5 million.
Well, I said, you don't. How do you like the private sector? He goes, a lot better than the public sector.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
I like him. I like the Sununu family. But John is he's been out of touch for almost 2 decades. He got crushed by Gene, and I didn't.
Now, is John attacking you?
No, he's trying to avoid me, but it's going to be problematic because the MAGA base is angry at the president, and they're never going to vote for him. The independents now coming over to me, the military, the people that voted for me here and there. So we got a lot of great groundswell.
What is his platform though? What is Sununu running on as your Republican opponent? Because you got the primary.
It's September 8th.
Right. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of time.
It's 208 days.
Right.
And so I don't know. I've seen him maybe 4 times. It's like problem solving, kumbaya. You need fighters down there.
Right.
You got to draw a line in the sand.
You know, the name's only going to carry you so far.
far.
I mean, I had the same thing with my predecessor.
I read all about you.
Yeah.
I know about. And listen, Hoffa stepped down because you didn't want to run against you. You would have lost.
Right. We would have crushed
And then he endorsed the other people, and you crushed them too.
Yeah.
So we're fighters.
The name only brings you so much. But as far as Sununu, like, are you going to debate him? Have you asked him?
You ask him.
Why don't we bring him on here and debate?
I'll do it tomorrow.
I'll be the moderator.
I've asked over and over and over, but he thinks it's won. He reminds me a lot of Martha.
Does he really think he won?
Yeah. He thinks. I think he thinks he's Martha Coakley.
What's the polling saying?
The polling, he's up, but the polling is 208 days away.
Right.
But we're closing, and we feel really good about where we're at. And I wouldn't be doing this, like you said. I could be doing anything else. Why? Because I feel I'm going to win. I have a plan. We got $1 million in the bank. We're fully staffed up, and we're ready to rock and roll. He's not anywhere. He's not doing anything. He's relying on that name, and God bless him. Good, great.
What do you think the biggest challenge for the state of New Hampshire, for whoever is a U.S. senator moving forward?
Well,
What's
it'll be
the
a lot
biggest
easier if it's me, because I have the access to the government, the president and Thune and all the others. I already was there.
Mm-hmm.
He was there in the olden days, and a lot of people weren't there.
Right.
Bringing dollars back, you know, those federal transportation dollars, creating jobs is really important. Eliminating the federal overreach, you know, that basically it's onerous and it costs New Hampshire taxpayers money. But we have the New Hampshire advantage. No income tax, no sales tax, no interest in dividends tax, no bottle bill, carry a gun or not, wear a motorcycle helmet or not. And those 4 people are screwing it up every single time, putting roadblock after men and boys and women and girls sports, not supporting our law enforcement. You know, these more and more and more government overreach and taxes. Those are the issues, and I think I can help.
So one of the issues, you were always pro-choice, right? And then you flipped that, and
I didn't flip.
well, you changed your position on, right?
No. Listen,
You're still pro-choice?
No, I support the New Hampshire law.
Right.
And I believe it. I supported it coming out of the federal government, going to the states. And New Hampshire has spoken. They have the same law basically as every state in New England. And I support that. You want to make any changes, you go through the legislature. I support, obviously, I'm against partial birth abortion. Chris Pappas is not. He favors that. I have worked very hard on adoption and other alternatives, the Safe Haven bill, allowing people to drop babies off at police and fire stations. And I've noted that the ability now to have ultrasounds and other women are making different choices, and the support systems they have are important. So yeah, my wife and I made that decision. When my youngest daughter, the water broke, and they said, "You were the baby, Gail," and we chose the baby.
Right.
So I believe that people should have the ability to make that decision.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
pro-choice,
I can't imagine.
nothing's changed. It's the same position.
Telling my mother, Charlestown Project woman, who brought up 3 younger brothers on her own, and then brought 3 of us up. I can't imagine trying to tell her what she should do and not do. Look, it's a choice, and people have the right to make that choice.
But on for example, we have to draw those comparisons. On the Chris Pappas side, you're all in. It's abortion up to the day of birth. I don't believe that. I'm against partial birth abortion, federal funding of abortion, and I don't believe we should be sending monies out of the country to help other countries with abortions. I believe, that it should be determined by the states, and New Hampshire is very clear.
What about the tariffs? That was very controversial, and I took a position because of my day job that, look, I'm all for tariffs as long as they're bringing jobs back to the United States, as long as they reestablish an industry, reestablishing a higher middle class. And there was such a attack on the tariffs. And I think there's part of the problem is I don't think the government's doing a good enough job of explaining exactly what those tariffs mean and what they could possibly mean 6-7 years down the road. Like when you look, for instance, the auto industry, where bad trade policies in the early 90s led to the demise of many industries going to Mexico, steel, auto. If we have an opportunity that those tariffs can bring those jobs back, right?
And they have.
I mean, what is wrong with that?
They have. And so first of all, it's President Trump. Don't forget President Biden kept in President Trump's original tariffs on China. Mm-hmm. He actually increased them.
PNTR.
Yeah.
Do you remember who authored that? Clinton. No, I didn't. We didn't support that. No way.
Yeah. So listen, here's my take on tariffs. I agree the president should have the authority to do tariffs and use them strategically as another tool in the toolbox to get the best benefit for our country, to help bring jobs back, to make it onerous so other companies, instead of going for the cheap dollar and the cheap income tax or whatever, bring it home.
Right.
Be American. I support that 100%. And for example, India, they're buying oil from Russia and other countries and undercutting the world market and basically propping up Russia. I thought the president was appropriate, saying, "Hey, stop! This is your tariff." Now it's down because they've agreed to do that. Same thing with a lot of these other countries. You know, the fact that Canada, yes, we have a high tariff. We're battling with our neighbor, who I love, Canadians. I love Canada. But we asked them to secure the border, and they really haven't done a good job there. We asked them for other things, and they haven't done it.
Well, securing the border is important in New Hampshire, right?
Of course. I mean, we still have people coming in. Drugs coming right down through Massachusetts, all the way to New York, and right back up. Right. But you look at the tariffs, and he is using them judiciously now. He's reestablished, quite frankly, fairness. I think it's a question of fairness. If we're paying in reciprocity, if we're paying, let's say hypothetically, China, I'm just throwing a number, 50%. Why can't they do 50%? Why should Japan and these other countries bring in their autos at a 3, 4, 5, 6, 10% tariff, and we don't even have access? And it's for the EU. For me, it was absolutely brilliant.
But where did all these policies start from?
I don't know.
They started bad trade policies in the 90s with Democrats.
Yeah, back in the day.
Right? And you think about, you make a great point about the safe borders. You know, fentanyl coming from Canada, or if you're down in Texas, coming from Mexico, right? But you look at all these bad policies, and I remember watching a video of Hillary Clinton's speech when she was running, I think it was 2008. Her immigration policy was exactly what happened. And I think we're all products of immigration somewhere down the road, right? And we embrace people that come into this, the greatest country in the world, do the right thing, don't commit crimes, go through the process. And the process probably should be revamped to allow people to make citizenship a lot sooner than they do. But at the end of the day, that whole argument and implementation was the same argument that was being made by Hillary Clinton and a lot of the other Democrats back in the day, who now oppose.
Get rid of the illegal. Get rid of the illegal.
Now oppose. Yeah. Now oppose it because
it's hypocritical. Right. So here's the problem with the immigration. I've said this from day one. There's a problem with the approval authorities. You know, the judges, the adjudicators, as to getting through that line. You know, my understanding, I could be wrong, is about 1 million people are waiting in line legally. There's no way we're going to put the people here that are here illegally ahead of our veterans, or people that are following the rules. So I suggested that we activate the JAGs, you know, the Reserve and National Guard JAGs, as well as retired judges and others, and train them up.
Train to vet these people through.
Train them up and get them and get these people through.
Now, being a 40-year career military guy, you know, there's been allegations, and obviously there's been people that weren't legal that served in the military that got deported. Is that true, or is that accurate?
I don't have that knowledge, but I do remember when I was at basic training and others, there were people here that could earn their citizenship by serving. And I believe that's still the policy. I don't have any personal knowledge of them being deported, but we saw a guy up in Maine or somewhere who was a police officer carrying a gun, and he was here illegally, you know? Yeah. And so, sorry, broke the law.
So there's a national push in Hollywood. You were a member of Screen Actors Guild. Your wife is a pension from there. There's a nationwide, when you talk about
AI?
tariffs and you talk about incentives, you know, we lost about 50% of the work in Hollywood to overseas, like the UK,
China.
Canada, China, because they've got real generous tax incentives to go over there and film movies. They can masquerade Paris to look like New York, Boston, or Chicago. And, you know, I look at Hollywood, I look at movies, I look at motion pictures as like, you know, baseball, it's iconic, right? And when you are seeing this work go over to overseas, and then you factor in AI, you factor in all these issues that are going on, what would be your position on a nationwide tax incentive to incentivize these big Hollywood productions to stay in the United States? Would you be for something for that, or would you be against it? You know, there was a push to tariff all the major studios for going over there, but that really wouldn't solve the problem in the States.
Well, in Massachusetts, you know, we have a very generous, I believe it's still in effect, incentive.
It's in effect till perpetuity.
Well, I supported that.
I know
was
you
one
did.
of the
We appreciate
co-sponsors.
that.
And so, you know, that's something that certainly by state we should absolutely do. You know, I'm not a big fan of mandating things from the federal government unless they're going to pay for it, but incentivizing businesses like the president is doing. Is it a tariff? No. Is there a potential for a tax write-off or offset to, you know, stimulate businesses coming back? Yeah, listen, I'm all ears. You know, but I just want to find a way to pay for it potentially. But in Massachusetts, you walk in Logan Airport. One of my favorite ways is to take a shortcut and go. It was at Terminal C, I think.
Is that JetBlue down off?
Yeah, when you go and you see all the movies that we've done, you
Right.
know? And I say I've seen every single one of them, and I remember saying, you know, I was part of that. I actually.
So you
helped
were
that.
part of it. I was a big part of it too, because you don't know
I
this.
think it
but-
was Timothy. Timothy was a big driving force.
Right.
There.
My father was a transportation coordinator for Local 25 in Boston.
Yeah, I know.
So any of the movies that were filmed, they had to hire Teamsters. So I grew up in a time where we would go to the Hilltop if a movie came in, because we knew my father was going to be working 3 or 4 months when there was only 2 or 3 movies per year. And then all of a sudden, because of people like you, myself, remember Richard Creswick?
Yeah.
Those guys, Nick Paleolotis, we all worked with the legislature to get that tax incentive put in 2006. And then Charlie Baker, on his way out, put it into perpetuity. It was supposed to sunset in like 2020 or something.
So here's the problem, though. The one thing I think we need to address when you're talking about state or federally is that many of these companies have learned how to manipulate it. They'll maybe do 5% of the movie in Massachusetts and get 100% of the write-offs. And that's something I think is a gray area we need to address. So
Yeah,
if
but
we're
that's
gonna-
always been scrutinized.
If we're gonna do something federally, then it's got to be in the United States, like at
Right.
least 75%.
Right.
That's the
And it's a different players now in Hollywood. You used to have 4 or 5 major studios,
right now.
making all the calls. Now you've got big tech. You've got
Amazon.
you've got Netflix, you've got Apple. And Amazon and Apple, when you look at, what their model is as far as what their products are, this Hollywood stuff is just a big advertisement for them. And all their movies, all their streaming media, it's all their Apple products that are in there. So they're not really in it for the passion of the industry. They're in it for growth.
It's business. Yeah.
What's your position on AI?
Very interesting. As I watched Terminator 1 and 2 this week, I'm like, that's AI right there.
Scary, isn't it?
Yeah, and I am a trust but verify. I think that it creates some great opportunities for us. And bottom line is I appreciate what the president did with that task force, because if China gets ahead of us and other bad actor countries, we're going to have trouble.
But what do we do with all those jobs that are going to be replaced? Like my concern always with technology and, efficiency is like, okay, everybody wants efficiencies. Everybody wants technologies, and I'm all for efficiencies and technologies if they're going to make our jobs easier. And if jobs are eliminated, let's find a way to create jobs as a result of these efficiencies and technologies put in there. And our concern is that we're such a society of convenience that we're not looking 10 steps ahead to say what is going to be the impact of the implementation.
Point
of AI.
well taken. The problem is that it's moving forward regardless. And,
Right.
and if China gets ahead of us and others, they can use it, quite frankly, militarily and in many other ways economically against us. But don't forget, AI is such a high energy source entity that the builders and welders and electricians and all the folks that are building those high capacity areas are needed now. There's what
Well, you're going to
thousands and thousands of jobs in your industry that they aren't there.
Right, but here's the issue. For once, probably the first time ever with this technology of AI being implemented, there's going to be, we've always dealt with it in the blue collar world. We've dealt with, think about our logo, 2 horses. What was that? That was horse and buggies delivering goods and services all across the United States. You don't think we were shitting our pants when the combustible engine came in? We're like, how are we going to deal with
and
this?
look at you now.
Right?
You have one of the strongest unions in the country.
And the problem now is moving forward for us is these, states that want to put autonomous commercial vehicles, platooning.
Yeah, I'll never get
which will
one.
be a disaster.
I'll never get in one of those ever.
No,
I'll never buy one. I'll never get in one ever.
The problem is like these commercial vehicles, they're going to eliminate jobs, hundreds of thousands of jobs. And when you talk to like a Democratic governor, like I did from Colorado, we had bipartisan support to say, look, we understand the Waymos of the world, which we don't like, the Ubers, the Lyfts. This our biggest issue is these driverless commercial vehicles going up and down the road. Both sides supported, put a bill in front of the governor of Colorado. I call him up. I'll never forget him on 43rd Street, New York, saying, you can't veto this. You have to sign it. He's like, well, I love the Teamsters. And I'm like, okay, great. And I've been with you on everything else, but I can't be with you in this one. I go, you out of your fucking mind? This is the only one we really care about. Where are you going to put those 200,000 commercial drivers that live in your state? He's like, well, it's not coming for 10 or 15 years. I go, it's coming in 10 or 15 minutes. Where are you going to put these people? He's like, oh, let's further continue to talk. I'm like, no, I need to know. Are you gonna support this legislation or veto it? He's like, well, I have to veto it. I'm like, because you're bought and paid for by big tech. That's all this is about. And I said, well, our relationship's over. Click.
Yeah.
Calling
draw
us
that
up.
line. You got to and like we're talking about right now, do I know everything about AI? Absolutely not. Have I done a lot of research on it? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Can I do more? Yes. But I know there's a tremendous amount of jobs right now available to help build.
Well, they're building the infrastructure of it.
That's huge. That's an important part.
Which is going to keep people working for 20 years. But it's just I met with someone that's very, he lives in your state.
It's not Dean Kamen, is it?
No, it's Alex Karp. It's Alex Karp.
Yeah, okay, I know the name. I've never.
So he's the head of Palantir.
Yeah.
Right. So he explained to me exactly what AI is going to do and who it's going to wipe out. And this.
Oh, put me in touch with him. I'd love to speak to him.
Yeah, I will. And it's all white collar jobs. Your lawyers, your doctors, your accountants, your analysts, all professions that really have never been affected by AI. They're going to be wiped out. And where are they going to go? Right? Where are those people going to go? And to your point, AI can't plumb a house, can't, wire a house, can't do certain things that, a human can do. But there's another tranche there that have never been affected by it.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see
you're
what
seeing
happens.
that actually now. I know people that are being affected.
You look
by
at doctors.
Yeah.
MRIs.
Yeah, listen, they're being affected now, but I look also at the cell phones, and then you have the computers, and there's all these things that have happened at the end of the world, and we seem to be a very resilient economy, and people adjust and adapt.
Right.
I don't have a specific answer for you right now on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think anybody does, to be honest with you. I'm sitting on a panel.
But I'd love to speak to him.
Yeah, I will make that happen. But I'm sitting on a panel this week with Josh Hawley and a bunch of others just about AI and the effects. And, I think it's good to have these open dialogues as far as the pros and cons of it. It's funny, we're talking about having conversations, working collaboratively to solve problems. And this is a problem that I think everybody should be looking at and working together, because you don't know the effects truly of what's going to happen in AI. I mean, you look at our kids right now, and your kids are older than mine, but you look at them and, instead of getting a book like when you're in law school and going doing some research, we're all guilty. We go right to Google, we go right to Chat GPT, and we find, like, my remote control wasn't working the other night in DC, and I was panicking. Like, how do I fix this thing? Because I want to watch this show.
Yeah.
And I go on Google, how do you, remote control won't work on a Samsung TV. There was like 400 things that came up. I had to fix in 10 seconds.
Listen, I get
and we're
it.
guilty as charged.
I'm old school. I still like to read the newspaper and touch books.
Oh, I love it.
And,
I love the newspaper. I love it. All right, so let's talk about the household. Is there any political division
No.
within the household?
No.
Everybody is on the same page?
Yeah. Obviously, Ayla has her own ideas about certain things, but yeah, they're all registered Republicans. But within our house, our family, we have people who supported President Trump, and their kids have not talked to him since.
Mhm.
That's
That's crazy.
2016.
It's crazy.
Divided family members, and I know a lot of folks have that same thing. And I'm always kind of maybe it's the Massachusetts flair, and growing up as an underdog and being in a minority party. That Tip O'Neill, Ronald Reagan philosophy: battle by day, but like we're doing, at night, grab a scotch, grab a beer, and next day figure it out.
Right.
And that's who we are.
Yeah, it's we got to get back to that.
It's like in your face, racist, Nazi, it's like, what? Supposedly, I guess because I have a certain position, I'm now a Nazi. I'm like, I served my country for almost 40 years. What? I'm a what?
So I didn't realize, I mean, obviously this division, but after I spoke at the RNC, I wasn't speaking for any one political party.
I watched it. It was great.
I was speaking for, working Americans.
Yeah.
And I had friends that don't talk to me anymore because of it, right? So they're
Shame
not
on
really
them.
my friends, right? But then I had people like attacking me from the far left, saying I'm a racist, all this shit. And I'm like, are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
And then publicly, these one of the DSA people, they burn a flag, they burn the American flag, right, and desecrated something in DC. So I see it and I comment on it on Facebook. I'm like, those people are a disgrace. You can have your opinions. That's the best part of this country. You can say and do whatever you want for the most part, but to burn a flag, that's unacceptable. I had people saying, well, the Supreme Court ruled that it wasn't. I laughed. I go, all right, so if the Supreme Court rules, whatever, and your child gets affected by whatever, you good with that? Like, what they're doing is they're disrespecting the greatest country in the world. Have them go to another country and pull that shit.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's crazy.
I've never. We have a couple of friends right now who, we don't even. We love them. We always will, but they're just so like in your face about stuff. I'm like, dude, I just want to watch the game.
Yeah, have a beer.
I just want to watch the Patriots. Stop. Just stop. Trump. I'm like, stop. I don't care.
Right.
Okay? You've never met him. You don't know him. You don't know what he's doing. You're ill-informed.
But have you ever said to them, all right, what's your solution to the problem?
Yes, of course. Yeah,
Right.
they say, well, blah, blah, it's always back to Trump. I said, well, under Biden, we had all these illegals come in. Were you bitching about the border? Well, Trump's, they're so draconian. People elected him. That's what they want, the border closed.
Right.
And he did it. Didn't he new legislation like Biden said? I said that. Pappas wants a new legislation. He did it.
I mean, in fairness, Biden was good to us as far as fixing our pensions.
Yeah.
But look,
I think that's important.
anybody in that seat is going to have criticism, but the venom right now is brutal.
It's
Brutal.
It's
Well, hopefully people like you can go down there with some common sense and solutions to problems, or work to find solutions to problems, not draw lines in the sand.
Yeah, listen, I've always, like I said, my door is always open, and always for anybody, because I like to learn. You tell me something, I'm going to go and verify it.
Right, exactly.
I'm not going to say, oh my God, guy, Sean told me it's gold. Oh,
Yeah, I've got burnt many times on that one.
And when, here's the difference, and when I give you my word, unlike the governor you're referring to, it's gold.
Right.
I've always been in the minority. I've always been, and the only thing I had was my word. And I'll give you an example. Mitt Romney's running. Kerry Healy's a VP. They're going around the offices saying, oh, you're going to support us. I said, no, I gave my support to Jim Rappaport. Oh, that's going to cost you. We need your support. They tried to strong arm me. I said, no offense. My office is about this big, no windows. I said,
Yeah.
What are you talking
Gonna
about?
put me in an
I
outhouse?
said, you guys have no clue what's going on up here. The only thing I have, we had 22 people. The only thing I have is my word. And when I give it to you, it's gold.
And by the way, your word means more to your constituents than it is in a building.
Same thing with Trav. I love Trav, right? And we're doing the stem cell bill. And he said, he really wanted to do it. And I walked into him unsolicited. I said, Trav, I have a solution. He said, what do you mean? I said, the stem cell, people are concerned about, using baby body parts. I said, why don't you? I have an idea about using the umbilical cord, the stem cells from the umbilical cord, and I think we can do the umbilical cord and then set up a chordal blood bank, and solve that problem so people can store their cells, or others can, and at UMass is a chordal blood bank. And he said, oh my God, and we passed it, unsolicited, and
Right.
and I consider him a dear, dear friend as a result of that one encounter.
Yeah.
That's Trav.
Oh, he was the best.
Yeah,
He was
still is the best.
So listen,
I asked all my guests this, and if there's one person who is currently alive and you could have lunch with that person, who would it be?
That I haven't had lunch with. Different genres or one specific?
Whatever you want. I mean,
Yeah,
you're a music guy. You got a band. Let's plug the band. What's the band?
Well, it's Scott Brown and the Diplomats. Yeah, we're playing all over. You can hire us. I'll pay. You got to pay a little extra because I want to make sure it's a union wage versus a non-union.
We're a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, right. Okay. So all kidding aside, if in fact they're alive or dead.
Alive.
All right, alive. I think for my purposes right now, I've done a lot of people politically already, already foreign, so I'll stay out of that. But musically, probably like Jimmy Page, Brian May. If we were alive, Jimi Hendrix. Those amazing performers. So on that side, on the sports side, I'd love to sit down with Peyton Pritchard and see how this guy who's about the same height as me, just dominating 6 men of the year, just this incredible intense heart.
Crazy.
I love that. Business wise, it would probably I met Elon Musk, but to sit down with him and actually learn about what makes him tick and his view on things without the noise.
That was quite a falling out.
Yeah, but they seem to be back.
You don't know. You just never know.
It's so irrelevant. And so I guess politically, like I've had lunch with most of the sitting senators and I'd like to sit down with the Speaker of the House and actually figure out what makes him tick. So
That's great. So let's plug the band.
yeah, Scott Brown and the Diplomats. And if you want to help politically, you can go to scottbrown.com and help.
Right. What are all your social media platforms? You on Instagram, TikTok?
At Sen Scott Brown, and then it's all there. You just look it up, scottbrown-diplomats.com for the band, and just have fun.
All right, great. Listen, thank you very much
you,
for coming
Sean.
on Better Bad Ideas, and you're always welcome back. And look, if you want us to broker that debate, we'll try and settle it up.
I want it. Let's do it. He won't
All right.
show up. You do it with Chris Pappas too. I don't care.
We can try and do that. That'd be different.
Never
wouldn't it?
happen. It never happened.
All right, we'll try and get it done.
All right. Thanks.
All right,
Cheers,
thank you.
everybody.